Hello campers, thank you for coming back to us here at Aging Gracefully. My name is Matthew Essex. Today we are blessed with the greatness of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, released in 1986 and directed by Tom McLaughlin. Now, I could talk about this movie for 5 days probably, and I know I said I'd keep it to 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to take it easy on everybody. Every once in a while, though, you run into a sequel that just knocks you on your backside. After what we got in Friday the 13th Part 5, this was a much-needed entry into this franchise. In this film, Tommy Jarvis is back. He's better than ever. He's 1,000 times better than what we got in Part 5. And he's played by Tom Matthews. Now, the movie starts off, Tommy and his friend Hawes are headed to Jason's grave. Tommy needs some sort of closure for all the stuff that Jason's put him through. And he makes a really bad decision and digs Jason up and stabs him in the chest with a piece of a fence that he ripped off of a gate at a cemetery, and a lightning storm resurrects Jason Voorhees. This is zombie Jason. What crawls out of that grave is not the running, creepy hillbilly that we knew, loved, and feared. This is something different. This guy's got maggots chewing on his face. He is really, really terrifying in this movie, and this is what I refer to as zombie Jason. He's not quite Terminator Jason that's coming up, but in this movie we get zombie Jason. Now, obviously, zombie Jason is awake, he's grumpy, and he starts to kill folks. Tommy narrowly gets away, stumbles into the sheriff, who knows who he is really irritated that Tommy is referring to what they now call Camp Forest Green as Camp Crystal Lake, and the sheriff immediately starts to look at Tommy as an enemy. Anything that happens from that point on, I don't care what it is, he's going to blame Tommy for. If there's a problem with the sheriff's taxes, he's probably going to pin that on Tommy Jarvis in some form or fashion. So this movie's got a great cast. Cast is the crucial part of a film. You have to like them. If you don't like them, you don't care what happens to them. And these guys in this movie, men, women, and children, they're all extremely likable. In this cast, you have the sheriff's daughter, Megan. Now, Megan seems like just a wild child, kind of trouble girl at the onset. You really don't know. I mean, you have ideas of who the final girl is going to be, but you're not quite certain of it just yet. Then it sort of figures itself out. Megan falls for Tommy. She helps Tommy evade. Great chemistry between these two. I mean, the whole cast is good. These two are stellar. Megan and Tommy wind up being probably one of, if not the very best couple that you'll find in a horror movie. I know that some different podcasts rank them. I listen to some of those guys. For my personal opinion, it's Tommy and Megan. They're tremendous. Now, obviously, once Jason's resurrected, he goes on a killing spree. And typically, in horror movies, the bigger the body count, it can kind of equate to a poor movie, a lesser film. That's not really the case with this one. This one's got a body count of 18. I mean, he's hacking some people up. But the movie's so good. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a campy horror movie, and it knows it's a campy horror movie. Some of the kills are very inventive and creative. One of the best sequences in this film takes place in the RV. Typically, the best sequence of a film tends to be the climax. That's not the case here. You're about 2/3 through the movie when Jason finds his way onto this RV, and he dispatches the girl by shoving her face through the side of the RV and makes a perfect imprint. And then he takes care of the driver. RV winds up flipping, catches fire. Jason rips the door open, stands on top of the RV, looks out into the night into Camp Crystal Lake as the RV is engulfed in flames. It's one of the coolest visuals from any horror movie that you'll see. If you haven't seen this movie, you're not a fan of horror movies, because this is not only one of the best sequels, but this is one of the best horror entries that you'll find. I mean, it's just an enjoyable movie. The villain, of course, is Jason Voorhees. He's zombie Jason. He's very creepy. He gets his mask back because Tommy brings it to him. So there's a couple little plot points that are a little hokey, but I get it. He brought the mask back as a way to get that closure. He wanted to set this dude on fire, which was nuts because he was already buried in the ground, but he wanted to toss the mask in there with him. So Jason happens upon his mask, and we're off and running. The best kill, the most brutal looking kill, and there's a lot of really inventive, really cool kills in here, but the best one is the sheriff. Now, the sheriff has a really interesting arc. You don't like him at first, and then towards the end, he kind of grows on you a little bit because he's only looking to protect folks. He's got Tommy all wrong, but he's doing his job, and he's fearless. You know, once he knows that his daughter's in trouble, he sacrifices himself, throws himself in front of Jason. Jason literally folds this guy backwards in a way that the body's not meant to bend. And you hear every single pop and crackle when he does it. I mean, it's kind of rough. Even today, it's a little rough to watch. But it was an effective kill. And so another part of this film that I thought was appropriately effective was the inclusion of campers. Now, if you actually really look at all the Friday the 13th movies, not all of them take place at a camp. And almost none of them have campers. This movie has young campers, kids everywhere. I remember thinking in part 4 when they introduced Tommy Jarvis and he was played by Corey Feldman, how scary it was that there was going to be a kid in the mix, because you don't want to see Jason hurt a kid. You know, horny teenagers are one thing. A little innocent kid who's just there, that just happens to be where he lives, it's a whole different set of rules. They tried it with part 5. Part 5 was hot garbage, so it didn't work. They could have put Superman in part 5 and we'd hate Superman. Part 6, they really raised the bar when they put an entire cast of boy and girl campers. They had boy cabin, they had a girl cabin, and they had a ton of campers out there. And there's several scenes where these campers interact with Jason or they see him. There's a scene where Jason is walking down an aisle of these kids. By the way, the director of this movie put a lot of little things in there with these kids, like letters home, pictures of their family. They really drove home the point that these are innocent little children. And they're all asleep except for one girl at the other end of the cabin who happens to see Jason walking down the aisle of the cabin right towards her. That was a creepy, creepy visual. Thank God nothing happened to her. Spoiler alert, she's fine. She's probably still doing horror conventions to this day. This is one of the best movies. I know I've said it. I'll keep saying it. This movie is fantastic. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Obviously, it ages gracefully. I might watch it tonight. It's that good. I don't know how many times I've seen it. It's just fantastic because the leads are great. Jason's scary. Some of the kills are funny. Everybody plays their role so well. That final scene, that final climax in the lake is just so well done. Right down to the giant boulder used to weight Jason down, landing on top of the Camp Forest Green sign that has been crossed off, and Camp Blood has been scrawled on it in red paint. It's solid. So it might be one of my favorite movies in this genre of all time. If I had to do an all-time ranking, I don't know where it would sit, but it'd be pretty high up there. Check it out. 8.5 out of 10. Awesome in every way possible. That's it. That's all. See you on the other side.